I realized, okay, I'm a gifted leader. I'm driven. I can maybe cast a vision. I can be a part of forming teams, and all those different things to head and march in a direction.
Right.
But then beyond that, and when I came back to the business, I know my weaknesses. And I know that I need to surround myself with a team that are experts in those fields.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the first Create a Rare Experience podcast. And we have a guest that I am super excited to have at Vortex today and have as our first guest. And that is Adam Weatherby of Weatherby Firearms. And I'm sure many of you, if not most of you, are extremely familiar with Weatherby. It is an iconic firearms brand that's now on its third generation. I believe it's either this year or next year. It's their 80th anniversary of being in business. Is that correct?
This year.
Yep. This year. So 2025, 80 years of business. So that is extremely difficult to do. Third generation family business, which we are going to dive into, also extremely difficult to do, especially that third generation to actually grow the business, which we're going to get into later. But please, let's welcome Adam Weatherby from Weatherby Firearms. Happy to have you here.
Thanks, Joe. It's great to be here, man. I'm excited to see where this goes today.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
This is going to be some fun ground I think we're going to cover.
Yeah, and I love that we brought you in here right when we had our first blizzard of the year. It just only seems fitting with you guys being in Sheridan, Wyoming.
Right.
And so we're good. We're a good fit there.
Winter's here. It's good to be inside.
It is. So, okay. Well, we're going to get into all things Weatherby from the business side, okay? Because I think the Create a Rare Experience podcast is all about this intersection of values, of business, of creating something unique, rare, memorable for customers, for our employees. But before we get into that, I want to know a little bit more about Adam Weatherby, the person, before the man, before we get to the brand. Okay, so how about you tell us just a little bit about yourself, what makes you tick, what are you all about, and then we'll kind of get more into the business stuff.
Sure, man, it's a broad question.
Yeah, go with it wherever you want.
So I can define myself right now, and everybody will think, whatever I say is true.
Yeah, of course, that's how it works.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's interesting because I think, like identity-wise, I was born into this family and this multi-generational business. And so that defines a little bit of who you are, but yet it doesn't at the same time, right? And I think a little bit of my story, that's what it's about. I was born in just to an awesome family. I have a great relationship with my folks still, to this day. As far as who I am and what, kind of makes me tick, been married next year's 30 years. So got a woman I've loved since we were 14, high school sweethearts. So married my high school sweetheart. We got two kids that are in their 20s, just married off our daughter. So we're kind of in that empty nesting stage, which has been a blast. But for me, I'm an adventurer, an outdoorsman at heart. So it's not just, I get to live out my passion. I always say it was cool. My grandpa went into this industry and he didn't, just create like a new roll of toilet paper or something so it's awesome to be hunting and shooting and being in the outdoors instead of, a business that talking about wiping butts or something. So it's fun. It's my passion. I get to live out my passion. If you were to ask my wife, like a lot of times when people ask me these questions, I go, okay, how would Brenda answer it? Because it's hard to talk, about yourself.
Yeah.
And I think she uses that word adventurer, risk taker, entrepreneurial spirit in a lot of things. And then most of all, just kind of, saving really the best to last. I've always done and pursued what I'm passionate about, no matter what. That's just what I kind of live for that, as maybe we can talk in a little bit. For me, my relationship with God, my trust in Jesus is paramount to my life and has been for a lot of years. I actually went to seminary, got a degree, got my master's in that, and so I've pursued really and still do to this day kind of all of those things. Whether it be professionally, volunteer, or otherwise. It's where people, like you said, values, business, our passion, where relationships, super important, where it's not just even hopefully being here today. This is a relationship that will deepen, not just for the sake of Vortex and Weatherby growing and deepening whatever, our financial, spreadsheets or whatever, but yeah, so I don't know. I just rambled for a long time.
So you are in good company. I am a world-class rambler.
Yes.
You're in with the champ. Okay, so I think this is.
It was a broad question.
It was a broad question. Yes, and it was meant to ramble. I'm a fan of that. I think a lot of times the best answers are in the rambles, in the subtext, and so appreciate that. So you said several things that I want to dive into, but before we do, I'd like to take a time machine. And I'd like to go back, and I'd like to go back to Roy, your grandfather, who started the business. I'd love to know a little bit about the origin of Weatherby, and then some of your favorite stories, maybe, and things that you've learned from your grandfather, and then just work our way up to you when you get born and you kind of enter the business, and then we talk about how you kind of go away for a little bit and come back. Are you cool with that?
So it's 80 years in a podcast. Basically.
Yeah, 80 years in a podcast. No pressure.
Okay,
I'm expecting all the best.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. I mean, people love to hear stories like ours. Yeah. It's that quote American dream.
Yeah.
That people talk about. My grandpa was born in 1910 in Kansas. His folks were sharecrop farmers down there, and he didn't own anything. I mean, he grew up with nothing. Had I think about 7 older sisters.
Okay.
And so when he grew up, married my grandma, Camilla, he was driven though. He had innate in him this drive for more, to create, to whatever. And so him and my grandma moved out to California in the early 40s. And at first Weatherby wasn't or anything in the outdoor industry. He gained a love for the outdoors in Kansas, shooting crows for neighbors and just tromping around creeks and, doing whatever. But he literally couldn't even afford to be much of a hunter, didn't have land.
Right. Yeah.
So he moved out to California. He sold insurance door to door for a while, just driving hard in any direction. Okay. Here's where the problem that the business came out of. A lot of entrepreneurs see a problem, want to solve it. Yep. He went on a mule deer hunt. He got invited on one from some friends he made. He could make friends with anybody. He was a genius marketer just by nature, not by by being trained by vocation. And he injured a deer and never recovered it. And he laid awake at night thinking, and just all of a sudden, his passion for ballistics came alive and saying, I want to provide for a more quicker, humane kill in the field. Okay. And that was the birth of the Magnum as we know it today. And so he started to get these crazy ideas knew enough about energy to know that velocity plays a part. It's not just, not just mass. And so he started doing a lot of tinkering in his garage and fire forming cartridges and doing all these things to get bullets moving faster, and wrote letters to the editor of magazines. They started putting it in their magazines. People started to figure out who this wildcatter, as they called him, Roy Weatherby, was from Southern California.
Who's selling insurance still?
Yeah, he was hustling it on the side to do whatever, tinkering in his garage, doing all those things. So then people would call him and say, hey, maybe you can, chamber a gun. He started doing, no formal training whatsoever at all. And started tinkering around and chambering people's rifles for his new Weatherby Magnum things that he started. Yeah. And from there, it was everything he did was just different, radically different. So even when he started, making guns, it was his stocks were way out there, the engraving, the shape of everything was radically different. Mm. He started to get this following in Southern California, and before you knew it, John Wayne, Roy Rogers, Gary Cooper were in his shop, fast forward a decade later. Wow. So he went from nobody knowing him to Hollywood's biggest celebrities, which is funny in today's world, but 75 years ago, it was a different Hollywood. We're in there. Right. And from there, it just snowballed to where we are today to be a premium firearms and ammunition company that's known around the world. And really what he did, and I'll just land on this and stop rambling, is in those first 15 years, the foundation was set that really around the world, but certainly the country, that we were known as a premium brand. Mm. And that got set up from the get-go, and it's never changed. Mm-hmm. Big shoes to step into. Right. Something we strive to maintain today.
So he was driven, creative, he was a hustler. He's radically different. Yes. I mean, he was a contrarian at heart. He had to be, just at heart. And so pretty much tick every box for an entrepreneur. And, and I have nothing against people who go to get their, master's business, but he didn't, and somehow it worked.
He didn't. Yeah. It was, and what's interesting is, but he could also, and here's what's interesting, is he could also create. He had the creative side and could create. I mean, he was truly an innovator.
Right.
Okay. But he was also a genius marketer. And if he wasn't both of those, I wouldn't be here today talking to you.
How was he a genius marketer? Give me an example or a story that really
he could talk anybody into anything.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. And so that's how did he get all of a sudden where he, and everybody paid for everything for him early on because he didn't have a dollar.
Sure, yeah.
And so somehow he talked everybody
He wasn't giving it away.
No.
Yeah, because he couldn't afford to.
No, he couldn't afford to at all. He couldn't afford anything for all those early years. And so he just figured out how to have the world pay for everything that he did in those early years. Yeah. And so it was like, even, we have the Weatherby Foundation still runs the Weatherby Big Game Trophy Award. Okay. Yep. Still today. Since 1956, I won't ever say it, give or take a year or two, but I believe 56 was the very first year. Like Jack O'Connor won it the second year. So all this, he created this award. And today it has to do with conservation and all these things. There's a lot bigger things today since he passed away in 1988. Yeah. But the idea was that ended up being this huge marketing thing too. So everything that he kind of did and touched, when he would go to Africa in the early years in the 50s to test his cartridges, and then you could test them on a lot of animals, very game plenty, not a lot of rules, right?
Yep.
1950s Africa, everybody dreams they could go to today. He would go do that, and from getting the airline company to somehow pay for his airfare to when he got back, he'd do these town hall meetings and come down and hear Roy Weatherby's stories about his safari. So everything he did, he was a storyteller, a genius storyteller. So whether he ended up on television or wherever he was, and he told that story about his products, about his drive, his passion, the ballistic superiority that came with it, and everybody just latched on.
Yeah.
Everybody did. It's crazy.
So he's just kind of this bigger than life.
Yes, correct.
Laid the foundation. I mean, got the shuttle off the launching pad and got it into orbit. Yes. Okay, and then eventually your father, who
had two sisters as well. So not a lot of boys, I guess, in our family.
Yeah, but he then eventually takes over. So what was that kind of handoff?
Correct.
And this is Ed. He's junior, but he goes by
Ed. Yeah, my dad is not my grandpa.
Okay.
At all. My dad grew up under the shadow of Roy Weatherby.
Sure.
Just to be honest. And so he was down at the shop Saturday mornings doing whatever he needed to do to keep the family business going as a kid, right? Yeah. And so he grew up under that. And, it's kind of one of those, I don't know if my dad really had a choice what he wanted to do, type of thing with his life. And my dad, if I were to describe his qualities, is different than my grandfather. If you ask other people, people say they meet my dad, they'd say, man, he's one of the nicest, most genuine guys I met. Yeah. He has a true love for family. He has a love for the Lord. He's faithful. Sure. Whether it's faithful to my mom, whether it's faithful to the employees, whatever it is, he's just faithful, steadfast. All those kind of things describe who my dad is.
Steady hand.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so he probably wouldn't have been that entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But yet he was the perfect one when you talk about how it gets to 80 years. He was the perfect one to endure the things that, when you're running a family business for decades and you have to endure hardships, there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. My dad was the one the foundation was built. But really in that second generation, I think what maybe happens with a lot of businesses and just talking to other people is can the business survive past the Gen 1 entrepreneur? Yep. And I think it takes somebody like my dad. Yeah. Because if it was my grandpa 2.0, he might have came in and undid everything that his dad did. Yes. My dad didn't undo it. He built on it.
Right. Yeah, because they may want to just create their own thing, and so you almost have to burn down the original thing in order to start this new thing.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that happens. Yeah. And so I think he was just, he was faithful to do that. He tried new things, and there's things throughout my dad's career, and him and my grandpa clashed. There's like the early 80s, like right early 80s, we had the first production rifle with like a non-wood stock.
Okay.
So fiberglass stock.
Yeah.
And when my dad
It's
showed
a big innovation. It's everywhere now.
Correct. But at the time it was all wood.
Yeah.
And we were known for super high grade wood and fancy stuff. And so when he brought it to my grandpa, like it was the toughest sell. I mean, it took a long time.
Oh, got it.
You know,
Okay.
that's the ugliest piece of whatever you're going to ever see. And that's not going to be on one of our rifles.
Right.
And, but eventually my grandpa let him try it. And once my grandpa saw the sales numbers, he kind of liked it. And, you know, so there was, you know, that push and shove that has to happen in order for those things to, you know, to kind of really take place and success to happen.
Was your grandfather, like, so when you were growing up, was your grandfather in also still in the business, or had he had?
No, so, I mean, so he died in 88.
Okay.
I was 12, I guess now everybody knows.
Yeah.
49. So, you know, I was a kid at the time. He, you know, during the years that I can remember, he was, quote, retired there in the 80s. Yeah. He retired the day he died, really. I mean, that's his life was that business.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and poured everything into it. And I'm grateful, obviously, because of it today.
Right. But there was no separating the two.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
So what was it like? Okay, so now you enter the scene. Tell me what it was like growing up. Being a part of that family. Sure. I mean, I'm assuming that you had to go into the shop and either work, or maybe when you were so young, at least, and I'm sort of projecting on my experience, you going in because they don't have a babysitter and you just got to be there, but maybe it was different. What was that like?
Yeah, no, it was different for me than it was my dad. I think when you get to that third generation, you know, certainly different than my dad, because I didn't grow up under that founder, right? So it was a little different relationship, where then also what my dad wanted to do is do some things a little bit different than my grandpa did, right? Yeah. And so there was a lot of that freedom to go explore and choose and decide who did God make you and what are your passions, what are your callings and different things. So there was definitely more freedom certainly than my dad had. And I'm not trying to put down my grandpa in that way. I would not be here today if it were not for his drive and passion. And yet my dad really wanted it for each of us kind of in that generation 3 to be able to have, you know, that choice and pursue your passions and those things. So it was a lot different than it was. My dad grew up in the shop. Absolutely. One of the unique things too is, and this maybe as we get into more later about our move to Wyoming, is my dad moved the business from Southern California up to the Central Coast, which is about a 4-hour drive. And he did that right after my grandfather passed away.
Okay. What would have been like if your grandfather was still alive and he
wouldn't have moved it.
Got it, yeah.
Yep.
I kind of figured, but
what happened is it gave the business kind of a restart, much like we did when we moved to Wyoming. Yeah. And so there was, I think as he did that, then my dad was able to kind of build his team. Yeah. Now, you know, some moved, but a lot didn't, just like we had. And then, you know, you have that opportunity and kind of that chance to rebuild that team. I guess what I was going to say in that, what happens is, like, I was like 8th grade at the time where that moved. Yeah. So I moved away from the business. Long story, but it ended up taking 4 to 5 years for the business to actually move due to just a lot of different circumstances. Okay. My dad actually commuted every week down
4 hours.
Wow. He'd go down beginning of the week and come back for about 4 years. So kind of my high school years, the business wasn't where I was located.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
What was that like for you? I mean, was it just the way it was and it was fine? You just went about your business? Was it difficult?
For my dad?
I guess really for both.
Because I wasn't in the business. I was just a high school kid.
Yeah. Right? But I mean, to have your dad be gone for the week.
No, it was definitely different, you know. But what it did is it made it where my world, because Weatherby wasn't located where I'm at, there was a bit of a healthy separation maybe in some ways for me to kind of grow and develop apart from, like, you know, you're the main employer in town or you're whatever those things are.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And then, so then you're growing up and you have this healthy separation, and I agree that probably is healthy, and you're figuring out what you're interested in. You had this freedom to explore and kind of figure it out. And you didn't decide initially to go whole hog into the business. You decided to go do something else.
Yeah. So I was, at the business for about maybe almost 4 years.
Okay.
Early on.
After high school?
No, college, kind of during college.
Okay.
Years, I kind of took the long way around college and my master's and all those things. Just kind of, I got married and started my career and all that. Just living the college life for a long time wasn't for me. And so I did it the hard way. Then my wife was my tutor, so it helped me. But, and so yeah, while I was actually even still doing college, working there, and, Dad put me in, and I was in customer service, sales, marketing, just a little bit of everything in those first 4 years. And after those first 4 years, I actually left the family business for a long stint and went into Christian ministry. And so, like I mentioned earlier, ended up getting my master's in that, and went down that road and was a pastor. Did a lot of speaking, a lot of missions work. Pastor a local church, a youth pastor. Just a passion to see next generation of people making wise choices.
That's got to be the toughest one, or at least from an outsider looking in.
It was an absolute blast.
It was a blast.
Looking
okay,
back,
good for you.
I wouldn't trade it for anything. Just to be there for that pivotal time in people's life where they're making decisions that'll affect them the rest of their life, and being able to challenge them to pursue a life without regrets, right? And to surrender their life to the Lord and head in that direction. So it's really kind of cool, even still today, to see a lot of those what were young people that then later I ended up officiating their weddings, and now they have kids, and now it's kind of that thing. But to be able to have that impact and do that, and that's where I said earlier that no matter what I did, I pursue. I just pursue what I'm passionate about. And so my dad was supportive of that. And I remember still back there'd be times where I'd get a text after something I spoke at or did something, and he said, "You're exactly where you need to be." Wow. And so having that affirmation from your father and him knowing that, and even still, because I still do a lot of speaking in that world as well, and he's just one of my biggest encouragements.
And he and your mom are still?
Yep, and they moved out to Wyoming after we did, just spent Thanksgiving with them, and so that's absolutely, awesome. Yep, we just... chopped firewood with them last week. And
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's awesome. All right, so you said a few things that I guess I'd like to dive into. Yeah. So you worked in the business for 4 years, and it sounds like you got a go at a bunch of different departments, maybe every different department. Was there one that jumped out to you that, and granted, obviously you left the business, but was there one or two or something that really resonated when you were kind of bouncing around in those first 4 years?
Sure. I think the marketing world, and perhaps a bit of sales. What's interesting is I said my grandpa had both. He had that marketing side. He was also just a creator and innovator. He could build stuff. I didn't get the building stuff side, like even just with my hands. Like I'm not wired like that. I'd be the worst engineer in the world.
You were in good company, not only on the rambling, but you were in good company. I didn't get that from my father. My brothers did.
Right. Yeah. And even in those years in ministry, I realized, okay, I'm a gifted leader. Yep. I'm driven. I can maybe cast a vision. I can be a part of forming teams, and all those different things to head and march in a direction. Right. But then beyond that, and when I came back to the business, I know my weaknesses. And I know that I need to surround myself with a team that are experts in those fields. Right. What's interesting is my brother, he's 2.5 years younger than me. He got the build stuff thing. He builds custom knives. He's a bladesmith. Unbelievably talented. Sure. D. Weatherby Forge. His name's Dan Weatherby. You can Google and look him up. I mean,
look him up. Shout out.
He actually takes rifle barrels and forges them down and makes stuff and custom does not. He's stunningly beautiful stuff. That's cool. I can't barely nail a 2x4 to another 2x4. So I'm kind of more on that side. And so for me, I know that I need to do what God gifted me to do. Yeah. And
hire other people who have the gifts that you don't.
Exactly.
Complement.
Exactly. And and at the same time, even personality-wise, what I try to do is really blend what I see as the strengths of my grandfather and the strengths of my father. Yeah. my grandpa's, that entrepreneurial spirit and drivenness and all those things in marketing, but my dad's really love and care for people and what matters in life.
Yeah.
And I just always think, man, if I can combine those two things, I think that's a life worth living.
Yeah, that's great that you had both examples and that you were able to draw on that. So real quick, and then I have a few things to go back on that you said earlier, but you were talking about, finding complementary pieces and people, creating these good teams. And I think in any relationship, and certainly in a marriage relationship, you're a team, and often I don't think necessarily opposites attract, but complements attract. But your wife is in the business, and from the sounds of it, at least when we talked before, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like she's got some complementary gifts that really help out you and the business. And so maybe we talk about her for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, no, she's got all the gifts that I don't, and vice versa. She's very detail oriented. I mean, she was always a valedictorian. She was everything, just very smart, but also super athletic. She was, just very driven. So she was
also very driven.
Yes, also very driven, but in a different way, right? And so really, she ended up getting her master's in organizational leadership. And so she's technically the VP of People and Culture. And so, and she does a great job at that. But I mean, she ticks every box. She's a rule follower. Compliance is under her as well. So there's a whole lot of things with the business that, I mean, she just doesn't let things slip. The way I run, things slip and fall. She doesn't run that way. It's just this will be done and this will be done and things are excellent. And I just go out there and run around. And at the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, there's some pretty cool stuff that happened. And so we're different in that sense. And so she, even during like our move, she just was the glue that held it all together. And we can chat about that. Maybe I think you said maybe we're going to get to that, but absolutely, she wasn't in the business and was just in the professional world for a bit early on. And I basically realized like I needed exactly the skill set she had. And at night I would just ask her all these things and, hey, I need to do this and I need to do this. So I'm like, why don't you just come and fix these things?
Well, what'd she say?
So she came,
So did you guys have any, concerns about that? Was that a struggle as far as a decision? Was it pretty much like, hey, I just been waiting for you to ask, or how did that go?
Yeah, I don't know. She just, I mean, at the end of the day, she's like, yeah, if this is what the family business needs, then I'm there. And then it really became where I feel like we lead together. We just constantly bounce things off each other. And so I'm technically the CEO and, drive the company and do those things. There's not a lot of major decisions, obviously, that I don't run by her. And so we just trust each other's instinct and gut on things. I mean, I'm naturally much more of a risk taker. And she doesn't like risk. And whether I'm hunting, flying, leading a business, I take risks. And she's not, but so she balances me, but at the same time, I think I made her a little bit more fun. I think we balance each other out in that way. And so it's great. It's great to have kind of just a partner in that. So
what's her name?
Brenda,
that's right. Okay. All right. That's cool.
Yeah.
You guys balance each other out and that you have the respect for one another. And that's awesome. So real quick, before we get to you entering back in the business and the move and everything. So you were in ministry for 14 years. And I'm just curious the things that I guess that you maybe learned the most.
Good question.
There that has translated so well. Because I think a lot of times people want to do something new. And they maybe don't appreciate the learning thing that they're going through in their current situation. And so maybe that wasn't you. You were appreciating those things. But I'm just curious, what maybe those are those superpowers that you developed within ministry that just so happen to translate over really well in business?
Yeah, I think it's people. So ministry is all about people. There's no bottom line you're trying to achieve. I mean, the bottom line is people's changed lives, right? So if that's the bottom line, if you would, at the end of the day, are people's changed lives, then the focus is people. It's not things. It's not money. It's people.
Okay.
And so in that sense, I would say it's, it's leadership, it's communication, it's understanding people. I mean, at the core of it is what we do, whether it's, whether it's employees, whether it's our customers, our end users, our dealers, our distributor. I mean, it's how to market. It's all those things. Like, at the end of the day, like, it's about people, right? And I guess, we always say, even business has a hopefully a greater purpose, right? Than just making widgets and selling them. Some do, some have greater purposes, right? That they have, and so that's something we've really, I think, have been driven to do, is to create that. And so, we say that we exist to glorify God, enrich people's lives as we inspire the dreams of hunters and shooters. And so we want, it's kind of God people, but it's also then that, that deeper purpose, even as people are out in the field using our product, they're creating memories, they're passing down our guns from generation to generation, they're bringing food home, enjoying that food around the Thanksgiving table, creating memories out there, having deep conversations with your dad in the deer blind. Those are bigger people things. Sure, we just make tools. At the end of the day, they're cool tools.
Right.
People like them. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's just a tool to hopefully create those things. And sure, create wealth for the business and employees and generations to come and all those things as well. Right. But anyways, so I think coming back to it, as you said, it's realizing, like, if I knew when it was time, my dad just said, hey, Adam, it's, time's ticking here. I'm kind of ready to be done one of these days. I was the one kind of maybe, kind of the one to lead it into the next generation, right? From that generation 3. And so it was one of those, if I came back though, like, I would need to have a drive and a passion beyond just making a widget and selling it. Yeah. Or else I'd flame out less than 5 years. Right. And so there had to be those things that I carried on maybe from those other times as well.
Wow. Okay. So one of my favorite phrases, I believe it's Stephen Covey, is begin with the end in mind. So for 14 years, it was obvious the White Hot Center is God and people.
Sure. Yes.
And so when you transition, it sounds like your dad was like, hey, I'm kind of getting ready to pass this off. Are you the oldest of your? Uh-huh. Okay. And you're the one with the skill sets that kind of make sense. Mm-hmm. You then, when you transition over, it's only natural that if you begin with the end in mind, the end for you is going to be God and people.
It's the same.
It's the same. And yes, you have to make this incredible widget in this rifle. Sure. But it's just this tool to serve God and people.
Sure.
Exactly. Did I get that right?
100%.
Okay, got it.
Now, are there days that I get it all backwards and upside down? Yeah. Are there days I'm stressed out? Right. There's, quality problems on the production floor, an upset customer, or problems with the supplier, tariffs, you name it, right? There's things that are going to happen that are going to turn you upside down. Yeah. But that's a prayer that Brenda and I really pray every morning. We pray a lot together in the mornings, and it's just like, hey, God, help us to stay focused today on what really matters, because there's going to be things that don't matter as much that are going to freak me out and turn me upside down. Yeah. And help me keep my head on, head on straight today, to trust you through these things. You've brought our business 80 years. Right. Certainly you can sustain us another day. Yeah, yeah. And so it's really, I think, that trust to do that, and to continue living that out. And then there are opportunities that I still have. So even still today, I co-pastor a local church that we planted 5 years ago, and I travel and speak and a lot of outdoor and men's things, and so there's opportunity to speak to people about what I'm passionate about, and so those things are there, and trying to kind of blend that, and it's it's hard work at times to kind of balance all that, but I guess it's just sometimes I wish I could turn some things off and slow things down, but Brenda says it's the way I'm wired, and I'll probably do it to the day I'm dead.
You got to know who you are, and it sounds like you do. So, okay, so then 14 years of ministry, your dad kind of calls, and what year do you come back in the business, and what are you doing when you get back initially?
Sure. It's about 11 to 12 years ago.
Okay, got it. All right, so 2013.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Correct.
All right.
So, but at that point, I came back in a higher role intentionally to take over the business.
Sure. Yep. Got it.
And so I think pretty quickly, rolled into a COO role and just came in, and was managing a lot of the business, and pretty quickly was with managing the day-to-day business before too long.
How was that back. Like with the employees? With you, was it?
I don't know. You should ask him.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just wondering.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think there were two things. I'm sure there were people that are like, hey, what is this kid coming and doing? And he doesn't even know this stuff, and I'm more qualified than him, and I'm sure there was that.
Right.
But there was also there's a future to this business. Yeah. Because my dad was getting older.
Yeah. Is he going to sell? Is he what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen to me?
What's my career going to be? So in a way, it brought stability.
Sure.
And then once they got to know me, they also know I'm not going to let grass grow under my feet. So then there was probably, oh shoot, where are we going now? And so, the move, all these things came into it, and there was certainly a lot of change. So, there's probably a whole lot of things, I think, from a lot of those people. Yeah.
But it wasn't exactly the prodigal son returning. I mean, it was this guy that had done ministry for 14 years, comes in with the values in place that were aligned with your dad. So there was as much as change as there was, it sounds like there was also a lot of alignment.
That's correct.
Got it.
Yes, that'd be true.
And that had to be somewhat comforting.
Yes.
So you come in 2013, you're in this COO role, but everybody kind of knows that this is a transition. He's going to lead the company. But then, I mean, realistically, it's not that many years later that you guys move.
Correct.
And so I guess, I mean, walk us through like that lead up, walk us through the wrestling maybe that there was or wasn't. And because I think one of the things that is just one of my favorite qualities and stories associated with the quality or value is courage. And I think at the heart of a business, it takes courage for Roy to start this business and to do all the things he did while he probably had a family and he's selling insurance and all that kind of stuff, which keeps the lights on at the time. But of course, now you'd had to have the courage to come back, to leave a vocation for 14 years. And then pretty quickly, it seems like you're seeing some things that need to change. And so I guess just walk us through that period a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, I think coming back in, it was like, again, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it to the best of my ability. And if I feel this is the direction we need to go, let's just go. I'm not a maintenance guy. I'm not a cruise control guy. And so, so as I came in, I think, one of the early on things that I realized was we were in California and it changed a lot in 75 years. And we make firearms. And so there are a lot of things there without getting political or going that direction that it's pretty obvious. Now, just even cost of business, there's nobody we were competing against that was doing business in California. So we had handicaps, we had all sorts of regulations on every side of the thing, more expensive costs, but more expensive electricity bills, recruiting employees, blah, blah, blah. And so it just became obvious if I'm going to give this my best push as Generation 3, it is not going to be here. And so it was like a thing. And then once I realized that the problem is the way I'm wired is it means we're moving because there's no way I'm going to sit around here and go, this is going to not be best for the business, potentially kill the business, never, potentially there was writing on the wall that it would just die a slow, painful death in California.
Is it fair to say that, I've heard this phrase a lot and a lot of times I agree to it. It's like, is the decision right or we have to make the decision right? So if the decision's right or wrong, there's a lot of wrestling, but then it's like, no, I made a decision. Now my job is to actually to make that decision work. Yes. And it seems like you're kind of more the latter.
Yes.
You're convicted, you made this decision, and now everything's wrapped around, okay, how do we do this? Correct. Is that fair?
And I tend to make decisions quick. As soon as I have all the facts, even if it's in a meeting and people go, or the data, as much data as you think you need. People go, well, we'll sit on this and come back. And I'm like, no. It's going to be decided by the end of this meeting because we're going to have 10 other decisions in the next 24 hours. So we got to make decisions if we have the data. The data was clear. Right. California had a rich history for Weatherby and had a horrible future. It had a rich history that I wouldn't go back against. And my grandpa in Southern California, an awesome history, great family, employees, great weather, year-round, a lot of things. It did not have a future. Yeah. So when I knew that, and I'm leading the business into the future, the decision was already made. Yeah. Then it was where and when. Yeah. And so we started looking at it initially at pretty, 2014, I started taking trips. So, I mean, it was pretty quick. Within less than a year of coming back, I started talking to other states. Yeah. And we started doing that. It wasn't
Dad is supportive of this?
100% supportive. And knew it. And really knew his last 5 to 10 years it needed to move to. Right. But just, he was at the end and his energy level when you've led the business through some decades, he just goes, I can't.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to have that energy when you're 50s, 60s,
yes,
70s.
And I won't either.
Right. Yeah.
So we started to kind of look, and at that point, it was what's going to be best for the business, for our brand, for outdoor lifestyle, for our employees, and just kind of mixing all these things, and we engaged in...
Is there some courting from some of the states as well?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So we just said, hey, we're a Western company, we just narrowed it down, we're still going to be out West. Yep. So we didn't really look too much east of the Rockies, and we just said, hey, that's who we are, it's in our blood, let's just... It just narrows it down right off the bat. Yeah. And so we did that. Probably talked with about 6 different states and different economic development places and all those different things. And to be honest, at the time though, we're still trying to run a business and do all those things, and it's just kind of like it would come and it would go, and then we get back into just we're running the business, we're launching product, we're doing things, and it was just this giant distraction at the same time. And so kind of some time came and went over the period of a couple years, and we kind of shelved it for a bit and said, we know we need to move. The timing's not now, just for the business. We need to pour it into business, and we kind of had some things. When we get to this point, then we'll move. And then Brenda and I and our family, we were actually doing a Weatherby family road trip film. It was pretty sweet. Our kids were like in maybe middle school at the time, and we just went. I mean, we were hunting and fishing and off-roading and mountain biking, did this huge like adventure thing. It was sweet. Yeah. Well, the last part, we were in Wyoming, and we antelope hunted, and we'd talked to several other states, and we hadn't talked to Wyoming yet. Okay. Because I'm like, for a lot of reasons, we're like, it's the middle of nowhere. Yep. Do they have a population big enough to, gain a workforce, logistics, shipping, all those kind of things? Are we going to be able to move anybody from California coast to Wyoming, et cetera? And we, on that trip on the way back, basically is when we were literally in the car. Brenda was hotspotting in the laptop over there, just looking at places all online. And as soon as I got back, reached out to Wyoming. Within a week, was on the phone with the governor and formed a friendship with him, and the rest was history. Wow! So it was cool after talking to a lot of other states, and they did a phenomenal job at recruiting us. They're a great partner, a great state to do business with, and we haven't looked back. It was incredibly challenging, incredibly hard. The move was, as much as Wyoming helped us, we still had to up and move a 70-something-year-old business. Yeah. A lot of employees who'd been around a long time, build a new factory, move our families, move our equipment, and stay in business all the while.
So I mean, okay, so there's a lot there. Yes. But we've got to talk a little bit about the communication to the company, to the employees, the move. I mean, we talked a little bit on Zoom a couple weeks back. There were some challenges with the move from a personnel standpoint, the recruitment standpoint. I mean, just share a little bit about that. It wasn't just you twitched your nose and you were in Sheridan, Wyoming, and everything was easy peasy.
Not at all. No, especially for a business that was that old and that established. Yeah. And it's in manufacturing, so we're talking equipment and things. We're talking.
And you got to keep the lights on the whole time, right? You can't just press pause.
No,
and 18 months later,
when you press pause.
Nobody gets paid.
Yeah, paydays every 2 weeks. We've never missed one, I don't think, in 80 years. So we're not about to. And so it was tough. People element, obviously, number one. Yeah. Coming back to what really matters, we built the business, with people. Yeah. And so knowing that to really up and move folks 1,000 miles and,
big deal.
Huge deal. And so that was a challenge. We then were at the same time building the factory and, just trying to train new people up. We ended up even our timing and announcement, and we announced at SHOT Show in January of 2018. And, Governor Wyoming was in the booth, and it was this huge deal, and we had to tell the employees ahead of time. And it was this, and initially, majority of the employees were all wanting to come.
Like, we're in.
Yeah. And then gradually they just started dropping off. And, in reality hits.
Because they got roots in California. They got all kinds of situations going on.
And frankly, most in the factory are dudes, and they have wives, and they Googled the weather and didn't want to move, a lot of them. But there's a lot of reasons, and folks just couldn't up and move. And so as soon as we made the announcement, then any of our workers that knew they weren't moving, knew that this was no longer their career. It was
they're
just
looking for new
job.
jobs.
If you're driven, your best ones are going to start looking for jobs because they realize my career at Weatherby is no longer a career; it's just a job. Yeah. It was a career, now it's not.
Wow.
And so they started jumping and you started losing a lot of talent. Well, then how do you hire up in that facility somebody else unless they're going to move? Yeah. How do you then rehire that? And so it was challenging. There were temp workers, at the end that we had to get. Yeah. We ended up. What I then did is we moved to Wyoming. In June of 18, rehired a lot of kind of more executive team and leadership team offices. Yeah. Okay. And in fact, the local community in Sheridan, it gave us temporary offices. It was actually the school district building. So Weatherby and the school district shared this cool brick building in Sheridan. We had our offices and all these empty offices. Yeah. The school district.
Firearms company. Yeah.
We only didn't have firearms in there because it was just our offices.
Right. Fair.
But sales, marketing, accounting, all these things started to move there. We started to rebuild the team there because here's what we knew. When they started leaving in California, when we announced our move, but we're doing a building, you can't build overnight. but part of the thing is we're taking, the state grants to help build a building, so it had to be public.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're going to go secretly build a building, and we wanted to be forthright with our employees, but they're leaving. So we started to rebuild that leadership team in Sheridan, Wyoming.
Okay.
And while the factory was still going back in California. Then we got a distribution facility in Sheridan, Wyoming, started diverting product to there, both from California that we were making, other suppliers in the U.S. and foreign supply starting to come in. So then we had 3 facilities. And then we were building a new facility, so there were really 4. Brenda was overseeing the building because I had to run the business.
Yeah.
And so she was literally in weekly meetings about airflow in the 300-yard tunnel under the building and all these things. She's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just showing up every week trying to do my best. So she was kind of overseeing that, recruiting this new team. Then we'd hire new people in Sheridan to go train in California on all our equipment so that then when it showed up, they knew how to build stuff. So then finance-wise, you're trying to picture all this and what it's costing you, right? You're running a business. And then you're double hiring people, sending ones out to California. That's how it was during that time period. All the while, we had 2 teenagers in high school that we moved.
Yeah.
We're dealing with that with our other employees, right? You're trying to find housing and just get situated, leaving a church you've been at forever and community. So that was a bit of our world for a couple years.
It feels stressful listening to it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm assuming that it was a very stressful time.
It was very, very challenging. I'd never want to do it again.
Never want to do it again.
But it was the best decision ever. So looking back, for everybody involved, it was I can't speak for everybody, but seemingly most people involved, it was great. Long term for Weatherby, it was phenomenal. Yeah. Within 3 years of moving, so we ended up having our grand opening June of 19. And within 3 years, we doubled the size of our business after being in Wyoming, just getting the handcuffs off from all of the costs and regulations from California.
73, 74, 75-year-old business.
Correct.
So for those that don't know, if you're in a business or haven't run a business that's been in business for 74, 75 years, to double at that point, it's hard enough to double in year 2 or 3, okay? But those things happen. But at that point, that's incredible. So, like you said, you were focused on the future, and extremely stressful, and certain times call for that. Tough decision, stressful period, but paid off.
Big time. And it's cool now, even since my folks have moved out to Sheridan and they live there. And, it's cool to hear from my dad sometimes, for him just to look and he'll say, man, that the team at Weatherby, the products, just to see, what's happened, the byproduct of being out west where we're hunting all Western big game, birds, everything right from the factory. Just right out of there. And so we live in the heartbeat of kind of what our products are often used for. And so really what it did in the marketing world, it was not a marketing decision. It was an operational decision. Yeah. But the marketing byproduct of rebranding, of people going, wow, Weatherby is around for another generation. Yeah. Weatherby, frankly, California was not wasn't good PR for Weatherby at a certain point too. Yeah. And so it just marked it's a 2A friendly state. Yep. There's just a lot of things about being in Wyoming, the access to the outdoors. There's just so many things that it ended up doing to help rebrand us. Yeah. And then we just came out with a ton of new products, went into some new different areas, and it was just, it was great. And we just, and it's not, maybe it was my call to get the business there and do that, but it's really been our team in Sheridan is just so talented. And we're just blessed with really good people. We could not do it without them. Yeah.
So, couple things real quick. So for now, Weatherby, in the future, what are you most excited about? It could be product, could be this big anniversary, could be more what you guys are doing from a culture standpoint, but what has really got those juices flowing for you now in 2025 heading into 26?
Yeah, it's not as maybe exciting or sexy as maybe what it was in that growth, in that billion, that story. But really what we did is we experienced a lot of growth in the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. And a lot of actually, even in the manufacturing world, of insourcing things that we were outsourcing because of it being the logistically cost, regulation, everything in California we couldn't do. So we brought in a ton of manufacturing, more engineering, and all those things that we had farmed out for a lot of years, even under my dad's leadership and stuff. Yeah. And so what we're doing now is really focusing on, I think we grew and we, use an aviation analogy. It's like we pitched and we were climbing and burning a lot of fuel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
People, fuel, time, money, everything. And now it's time where we're leveling now, not that we're not going to be doing new product and innovating in those things, but what we want to do is fine tune over these next few years and get better and better and better at what we do, because we've brought a lot in. And I think a business can grow too fast, too long at its own detriment. And I think, Brenda kept saying, Adam, when's the plane going to level off?
Level off.
When are you not just going to pitch up with the throttle all the way down? Because at a certain point, we're going to either burn people out, we're going to spend too much money, we're going to whatever. And so what we're doing now is really coming in from systems and, things maybe end consumers don't necessarily think about or care about, but our systems and our processes, our efficiencies, like these are things that are fun as a manufacturer to come in and just make it where it's sustainable. And also, if you're talking to multi-generational business, been around 80 years, putting things in place where we've now had some of these new team members we've built so many things that, like we always say, we don't want a single point of failure, myself included, that we need to have things in place so this can last, built to last type of thing for the future. And so that's a lot of what we're doing now. That's not as exciting as talk about on the outset. Now, our new products that we got in the works, all those things, exciting things, and those are still exciting for me. But I'm excited now to help put some lasting things to what we've really built the last 5 to 7 years.
Okay. So I think you hit on some really good stuff, but I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper. Okay. So it seems to me, and I've felt this at our business, there's this natural tension that exists between more of an entrepreneurial, innovator, risk taker persona or people, and then you have more of these operator, manager, system-focused folks. And that can go really bad. And there can be this locking of horns and kind of frustration, or it is actually can be kind of rocket fuel. Sure. And I've got some thoughts, but I don't want to hear my thoughts because I already know them. I want to hear your thoughts on how you've been able to make that work. It seems like, I'm somewhat projecting here, but it seems like you made that work in your marriage, but now you're making it work in your business. And so speaking to people that either have a company or they're in a company and they feel that tension, maybe talk a little bit about how you make it work versus making it where it's a combustible situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I think, and I think it comes back to knowing your own strengths and weaknesses, right? Okay. And maybe for me, knowing that I'll probably burn people out or me out if I don't do that. So it's almost me understanding my weakness. Yeah. And then addressing that.
Well, right? It seems to me like, again, it comes back to you have a healthy appreciation of the other person.
Hopefully, I try to.
Right.
Yeah, and understanding
well, you don't want to burn them out.
No, absolutely. Right. And I'm sure we have.
Yep. I mean, sure, it's happened. It can happen.
I'm sure you have too, right? It happens, and different people can kind of handle different things. Different people are wired different. Some people are wired more for just maintenance, and I want to show up and I want to do this and maintain. And certain people are like, man, what's new tomorrow? Right. And so you have all those different type of personalities, and so I think it's knowing what your business needs at a specific time. And a number of years ago, we didn't just need to sit back and do what we're doing now in California, right? And so, there's different seasons of your business, I think, that it goes through. And I think it's understanding what that season is. And some of that you can't perfectly plan for. You don't know where the market's going to go, the economy's going to go, right? Yeah. And so, in our industry, as you know, we had, a huge boom there, kind of COVID, post-COVID, 21, 22. Things have really leveled off. So it's a great time to get ship shape. Yeah. You don't get ship shape when the boat's rocking and almost tipping over, or you're sailing and you're heeling and about to capsize. You get ship shape when, okay, we got a little bit of downtime, right? Like when I'm flying, my flight instructor was a Vietnam helicopter pilot. He used to yell at me a lot, right? But he'd always say when he was doing it, he's like, hey, when you're in a flight and you're doing things, and he'd always say, when you're sitting there fat, dumb, and happy, what he meant was, you're not stressed out, you're not on the radio, you have a few minutes, what do you do during that time? looking around at all them knobs and buttons and levers and going, okay, what do I do? Dialing in the next frequency because I know this guy's going to have me do this. I'm probably going to load in this approach. I'm going to do these things. And that's a bit of what we're doing now, right? Yeah. Is trying to get things ship shape, kind of after a heavy growth period, a heavy market and industry spike. All industries have it to a certain degree. Our industry, not unlike others where we've had these spikes. And so I think it's understanding that season and really then preparing for that next busy season so that we can be really prepared when things start to run.
love that, is recognizing the season that you're in, knowing how you have to lean into it. And it seems like it takes a really mature person to do that, and to also understand at certain times maybe your strength is going to be flexed a lot, and in other times maybe somebody else's strength is going to be flexed a lot, and to be kind of supportive in that, the constantly changing of the seasons.
And when you talk about maturity, it's interesting. Like, if you're watching on the video, I have, a lot more gray in my beard than not gray now. And I was reading Proverbs the other day. I guess that brings wisdom, I'm told. So apparently I'm getting more wisdom.
Although I would like to see a before and after move photo of you.
No gray. Literally
no gray before, all gray after.
You.
Yeah, I suspect.
But I think part of that maturing process and understanding as a leader is also to know I'm still thinking forward many years. There's times where I bring team members in on that, and there's times where I don't.
Yeah.
And to know, look, they're doing some really cool stuff right now. Yeah. And part of that too is if the boss comes by and talks about something or whatever, okay, wait, do I shift all my focus? No, we have some objectives and things we're doing now. Yeah. And so let's do that and allow for my team to really do those and have that strategic plan that's in place. Like we have a 4-year strategic plan right now to do a lot of those things. But it doesn't mean that I'm not thinking beyond them and starting to do that, because that's kind of my job, isn't it? Yeah. My job is to stay that step out there beyond them. But it's not that everybody needs to know all those things, because sometimes that can just be overwhelming.
It can be stressful for them, and they don't need it.
That's correct.
But you've got to have the eyes on the horizon for sure. Yes. That's part of the job.
Right. Yeah. But I still bring too many people into it because I get excited, and I still probably rock the boat a little too much, but it's fun.
I can relate. So curious, what advice would you give somebody who's either just starting to run a family business or is considering jumping in the family business that's part of the family? I know that's a small amount of people maybe listening, but I still think I'm always fascinated to hear from people in a family business. What are your thoughts? What is your recommendations there?
Man, I think a lot of it's communication.
Yeah?
With family first and foremost.
Okay, yeah.
To have clear lines and boundaries, just different things, whether it's generationally or along the same generation. I think it's interesting because you go, okay, statistically, it's well below 10%. I don't know what it is, generation 3 to be around after 80 years. Yeah. It's a very, very low statistic. And sometimes it works personality-wise and gift-wise and different things. Sometimes it doesn't. And as hard as you try, you can't go, I'm going to create a business. This can be a lasting legacy. You don't know what the next generations are going to do. You just don't. You can set it up the best you can. Yeah. My grandpa set it up great. I can ruin this thing in a heartbeat. Right. It's not that hard. Right. It's not that hard to fail. Yeah. And so I think it's also, so I think it's communication and clear boundaries within those communication lines. And then I think it's also an understanding that you got to be faithful to do what you need to do, and in the end, that success or where it's going to go isn't solely dependent on you. Yeah. Now, for me, because I believe in God, I believe in His sovereignty and all those things. I mean, the fact that we're here today, He gave us another breath, and the fact our business is here 80 years later is, like Brenda would often say, after the move, and I talked about the growth, I'm like, isn't this awesome, Mama? She's like, Adam, it's the favor of the Lord. Yeah. It's nothing we've done. Yeah. And sure, we might have made a couple good decisions along the way, and probably a couple bad ones too, but ultimately, there's external factors that are beyond our control, and just to, I think, know that. And just to know it's hard. One of the best things I've been told, not just about family business, but about business is it's never as good as it looks from the outside, and it's never as bad as it looks from the inside. Yeah. And that is one of the biggest, I say that quote all the time, because I always say the way the sausage is made behind our doors, it's messy. Yeah. On the outside, they're like, man, what a brand, and this premium brand, all these things. Right. It's always messy. It is always messy on the inside.
So I love that you mentioned that. I just want to put double, triple emphasis on the messy part, is that I think a lot of people read a lot of business books. I mean, even I like doing that, but books are written in a very linear, progressive fashion in a very logical way, because that's the easiest way to digest them. So I think sometimes people then cross over, especially the younger they are, into a business, and they expect it to be like their book they read. Sure. It's not.
Never.
It's messy. And I think doesn't mean you have to just accept the mess and not fix anything. But I also think it's somewhat therapeutic to understand that I've stepped in, just life in general is messy, and to understand that that's a part of life. Sure. Is that kind of what you maybe are getting? I don't put words in your mouth.
Not everybody, and this is what happens to family business too, not everybody is cut out for it.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's okay.
Right.
There's some people that go, like, even
me.
my kids, growing up, they see me and mom talking on a Friday night at 9:30 and stressing out about something in business, and there's times they go, there's probably other careers I'd rather do where I don't have to do that on Friday night, 9:30, stay up late worrying about something. Right. It's not for everybody, and that's okay. It's not any less.
Right.
But you have to be okay with that burden, with that level of responsibility. My name is on the FFL. I'm ultimately responsible for every firearm transaction, and I am responsible for the government for that. My name is on every loan. I'm the personal guarantee. I signed on all those things. You have to be okay with signing your name on all those dotted lines, and some people aren't, and that's okay.
And it sounds to me like you're illustrating there is that every position or thing has trade-offs. Yes. There's some advantages for you to have your name on all those things, but there's also a lot of burdens and responsibilities, and the Friday evening that somebody who's not maybe willing to take that on, they're going to have a lot of peace of mind potentially on that Friday or when they leave.
I'm jealous of that.
Right, yeah.
And I go, man, that looks awesome. And they're looking over here going, man, I wish I owned Weatherby.
And they're a little bit jealous of that.
And that's what happens, but that's what Spider-Man's uncle said. With great power comes great responsibility. It is totally
Uncle Ben was
true.
right. Yeah.
Uncle Ben. Poor guy.
So, all right. So I love that. You may have just answered this next question then. Okay. And so, but, okay, so there's going to be people listening to this. They own a business, they run a team, or maybe they're thinking about starting a business, or maybe they're just thinking about making a big move that requires a lot of courage. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's been a lot in your life, but you illustrated two in this conversation. One was you left the vocation after 14 years to come back. Mm-hmm. So that was a big decision and took a lot of courage. And then you moved to a 75-year-old company. Right. Granted, you said all the data and everything was pointing in the direction, but you still had to, make that decision, make the move, and everything that came with it. And again, there's probably many things when you run a business, you've got to make these that require courage. So for somebody who's out there who's thinking of, or that's got this idea that's percolating, that's going to require a lot of courage, what advice do you give them?
A lot of times I think fear and courage, right, play together. Yep. And a lot of people make decisions based on fear. Mm. And one of my biggest fears is regret, right? You get to the end of your life, or fast forward 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and you go, what would I regret? And typically that gives me courage to say, I'm going to make the decision now that 10 years from now I go, that's the decision I needed to make, right? Wow. And so thinking that, because what causes us to not have courage is fear. Yeah. And yet if we want to get to, with the end in mind, if we want to get to there, there's going to be scary steps that you have to make along the way. And that's where risk is. Yeah. And that's, for me, where my trust in God comes in. I believe, when you take those risks and you step out, it's in those moments that you step out. It's not in the good years. It's in the challenging years. It's in the moments of courage. It's when you step out of the boat, right? It's when you do those, it's those moments that I think are so big. And I think people that have regret in their life listen to those fears and didn't have courage. And that's what drives me.
So instead of the focus, if I've heard this correctly, instead of the focus, this just wrapped around the fear axle, we're going to transport ourselves in the future. 5, 10, 20, 30 years. Right. And that's a story. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what's the story we want to tell? Yeah. And then let that almost defeat the fear, or let that maybe focus on the courage piece rather than the fear pieces. Did I get that right? Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I love that. And so it seems like you've been able to do that, and that's the advice that you'd want to give.
I hope I've been able to do it. And I think that's Yeah, certainly to have courage, you have to look at it that way, and you have to look at the long term. If you live day to day and aren't thinking that way, then the fears of the day to day are going to drive you. It's going to drive your business, and you're not going to end up where
you want to be, where you're proud of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I've got 2 questions left. Okay, the first one is, what's the one thing that you wish people would ask you about Weatherby that nobody ever does? Is there anything like that?
That's a really good question, Joe.
Thank you.
No, I think customers see the end product first and foremost. They see your marketing. They see that. We love like when people come to Sheridan, Wyoming, and experience Weatherby and just see things behind the door and understand the people and everything that goes into it. I think in general, like it's cool when you even just being here today, right, at Vortex. It's a cool experience. You get so much more, about it. So I think it's for people to look past what's on the surface and to see behind it that it is a family business, that it is there's employees showing up to work today at 1550 Yellowtail Drive, Sheridan, Wyoming, and everybody who gets a paycheck shows up to that same building and is just working hard and doing that. And so I think it's we need to do a better job at telling just our people story and the people behind it. So I think it's in general 99 out of 100 questions I get from customers are product based.
Yeah,
and sometimes I'm like, man, it's so much more than products.
Right.
I don't know if that answers it.
No, that actually does.
I mean? And they're like, well, what caliber would you use for this and which bullet weight? And it's always just nerdy ballistics. I love geeking out on that stuff. I think probably gonna do that on a podcast later today here at Vortex.
You are, yes.
Love that. But this has been a refreshing conversation for me because these are the things that I think about more than ballistics.
Right. Well, and I think it kind of goes back to earlier, and again, I love it, is that in the midst of all this cool product and ballistics and hunting and all these wonderful things, is that people is the most important thing. It's the central thing. And it seems that, and then also I would say is a lot of that product related stuff is more surface level, not bad, but it's not the central thing. And so to kind of have more of a focus on the people and on the center, that's, I guess, my takeaway, which I think whether you're running a company or not, that's a valuable lesson and something to focus on.
And I think that's what this podcast is about. And that's why I was excited to come on. I think I told you when I heard about this, my marketing guy goes, Adam, like a year ago, you were thinking about doing something like this. You talked to me about. Apparently didn't have the courage or the time or the focus or energy, something. I didn't do it. But that's why I was super excited to come on and be a guest on it, was because most of the podcasts I'm on are focused more on products. It's Weatherby story and then it's products. And what I love about this and this care thing is it's about something deeper than that. And so I enjoy when I have the opportunity, for lack of a better word, to use Weatherby as a platform to talk about something deeper. I love that, and that's where I go, I'm right where I need to be. You know what I mean?
I do. One thing that I'm passionate about, and I can tell you're passionate about this as well, and I really don't want the listeners to miss this piece. So you have this business that's 80 years, third generation. I mean, it doubled just a couple years ago. So this thing is one of the most iconic brands in the outdoor industry and the hunting industry. You've got Vortex, that's one of the top optics companies, in the world. So one of the top firearms companies, one of the top optics companies. Both of these ones are these rocket ships. But that is great, but it's a byproduct of having a focus on people and God and letting that work from the inside out. And the byproduct is that you get this successful business. It's not easy. It's messy. There's a lot of highs and lows. But I think one of the things that I'd like people to see is this intersection and also how one drives the other. So they're not separate. They're connected and one drives the other. And I think I would love for people to focus on the people side as an end in and of itself, not a means to an end. Okay? Serving people. However, it just so happens that it's great for your bottom line. And I think that's a way that somebody, whether they're running a business or it's their life, that they're going to have a better life, they're going to have a better business if they can put the people at the center and have that drive things like product, drive metrics, drive culture, as opposed to we have to drive metrics, we have to drive product, we have to drive culture, and let's try to see how we can fit in the people side over here. That's something I'm passionate about. It seems that that is something that also is kind of lives inside of you, and also Weatherby.
Yeah, and Brenda too. I think you know, with that people part, and she just, you know, she grounds me in that sometimes as well, and brings me back to that, because you can get off onto the every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need people in your life and things in your life that keep you grounded.
Correct.
Love that. Okay, final question.
Yeah.
What did I miss that you wanted me to ask? Is there anything that we didn't cover that, again, is kind of really passionate, people side, culture side, product side, that you were just dying to get out?
No, man. I think this has been fun.
This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, you asked the questions. I think we got into a lot of things, and you left plenty of room to kind of head down plenty of rabbit trails. And so no, it's been fun. I think it's been inspiring for me, you know, just to even just to see you and your role in what you do, leading this organization here at Vortex, and yet being able to step out and say, hey, I'm gonna do a podcast on, you know, on this other thing and something bigger and deeper. And so I think it's been inspiring and encouraging for me. So even though I sat here and told my story,
well, it was
I felt like
story.
it was a learning experience for me. So from a question standpoint, I don't see anything.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, we were honored to have you. I learned a ton. In fact, I've got a ton to digest on and take some of these lessons back. I think for the listeners, same thing. I think this is one to spend some time on, see how this is showing up in your life, see areas that you can take away these lessons and apply them to your life. You're going to have a blast, no pun intended, with Mark on this next podcast.
Sure.
It's going to be totally different, and it's going to be equally as fun.
Yeah.
But we're just honored to have you here. Just real excited to further this partnership with Weatherby. But again, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Listen, guys, movements are built on connection. If this resonated, share it and join the conversation. Hit that subscribe button or check the show notes where you can follow me on all my socials. Or check out more about the movement at vortexcare.com. Let's build something rare together.